Hi everyone, I'm Jess. Welcome back to my channel, Chillin' Like a Villain. Today I'm going to be doing my February wrap up. In February I read 6 books, but I'm really happy with the kind of books that I read because I read a lot of books in ongoing series that I'm reading. And then also I read a 4-star book, almost 5 stars, but like 4.5. So let's get into it. Some of these books I did cover in my Slayback series wrap up, but seeing as that only got one view, I'm going to go ahead and just tell you about them again. Okay, I'm not bitter. It's fine. So the first book I read was Jamaica Inn by Daphne du Maurier. This is a classic, everyone loves it. It is about Mary Ellen, who in the 1900s her mother passes away, so she goes to live with her aunt in the Cornish moors, and she lives at Jamaica Inn with her aunt and uncle. Her uncle is a bit of a tyrant, and strange things start happening at the inn, and she becomes embroiled in his criminal activities. I was so excited for this book. I was like ready for a good classic to really love. It was first published in 1936, so it was not like a Jane Austen kind of classic. It's more like I guess you could say a modern classic, but it doesn't feel like it's written that way. It's very easy to read. It's not classical kind of speaking. So it's easy to read, but I just didn't love it as much as I thought I was going to, and I think that it's also because I watched the BBC adaptation a couple of years ago, and that was quite good. So I already knew what was going to happen because it's a relatively short book actually when you're reading it. So I kind of knew almost every single thing that happened, so it was a bit meh when I was reading it for that particular reason. Also, I really liked the main character, Mary. She was quite spunky. She didn't want to be involved in these sort of criminal activities, so she kind of went off on her own and tried to stop them, but there were just moments where I didn't understand her characterization, where, for example, when she's talking to Jem, which is her uncle by marriage, so not related, her uncle's brother Jem, who is the love interest in this book, and I don't know, he kind of just seemed like a douche, and she didn't seem to mind, and she loved him like really quickly, and I was a bit like, why? He's just being mean to you. But I liked it. It was good. I still want to sort of read more of her books, and I really liked her writing style. So Daphne du Maurier is a really good author, but I think because I knew what was going to happen, it was just meh for me. So 3 stars average. It is a good book. I still recommend reading it. Then I read Broken Harbour by Tana French. This is the 4th Dublin Murder Squad book. The Dublin Murder Squad is... The title is fairly self-explanatory, but it is a series of companion novels about detectives in Ireland. They're quite dark, very atmospheric, and very character-driven books, and you should still read them in order, for definite. This is the 4th one. I can sort of tell you what it's about without giving spoilers away for the other ones because they are companion novels. So this follows Scorcher Kennedy, who we met last book very briefly, and he is investigating the murder of a family. So the husband and children are killed, and the mother of this family has been stabbed and is in hospital because her murder, she didn't die during this attack. And he and his new rookie partner are trying to solve this crime, and he's also dealing with his family problems. This was not my favourite, but it's really funny for me saying that with Tana French because even a less good Tana French book is a better book than most books. Does that make sense? I gave this 3 stars because that's my average rating, but that's a solid book. That's a fine book, 4 stars is amazing, and 5 stars is favourite book of all time on the rating scale. So don't be fooled by my 3 stars. But yeah, I just didn't love this one as much as I love the others. I know that is a lot of people's opinion on this, but it's still a very good book, and it's still got really creepy moments, and you still want to know what happened. So all of the elements of Tana French's books that make them so good are still there, because this takes place in a very isolated area. So it's got that creep factor where you don't really know what's happening, and I just did not connect to Scorcher as much as I connected to like Rob or Frank or Cassie. So I think that it was possibly that. There were elements that I really did like. For example, the relationship between him and his partner, the friendship, that was really good. And I liked sort of finding out what happened to this family and the sort of the tension, because it's like a slow build where you slowly start to realize what's happened, and it's really creepy. That was good, but the flashbacks, the flashbacks were kind of obvious to me. The stuff that's happened to him in the past that kind of shape his character, it didn't seem particularly shocking or twisty or anything particularly. So, I mean, her books normally do have a lot of sort of backstory, the characters either implying things or you working things out. And that element felt a little flat to me in terms of Scorcher's development. So I think that was possibly why, and I just didn't connect to him personally. But I'm still really like it, and this is still one of my favourite series, and I still recommend it. And I really want to read the next one to sort of bump it back up again. That I covered in my Slaybat series wrap up. Slaybat series is readathon, but it's happened twice now, done by Shami at Really Like Wildfire and Sarah at Sarah Barton H. It's really good because it basically just gives you 8 days where you have to carry on with series that you've started. Obviously, in this wrap up, I've covered that I read Broken Harbour, and that is part of a series, so I was already sort of in the mood to carry on with my series. So the first book I read was, obviously not going into it too much because I covered this in my wrap up, so you can go watch that, but I'll just very quickly go through it again. The first book I read was A Grave Matter by Annalee Hubert. This is the third Kira Darby mystery book. Kira Darby mysteries are historical romance mystery centered on Kira Darby, who is a very talented artist and is knowledgeable in forensics, the like body. You know, she can look at a body and see how it was murdered because her husband was an anatomist and she was forced to take part in dissection. So she is able to draw and help with the investigations in terms of sort of finding out what happened to the bodies, and she's also pulled into these investigations because of her little connection with the inquiry agent Gage, who she always ends up meeting on these investigations. Fun, quick, cute little series. It was really cute. It's really quick and easy and nice, and if you like mysteries, like historical mystery, period drama, you should read them. Then I read The Red Necklace and The Silver Blade, which is the Red Necklace duology by Sally Gardner. These books follow Jan Margoza. He is 14 at the beginning of the first book and then 17 by the end of it. He is a young gypsy boy at the start of the French Revolution. He is able to read minds, and he travels with a dwarf and a magician, and they perform tricks at like posh houses and theatres. And at one of these posh houses, he meets a young girl called Sido, and they have a little connection. And he also meets an evil count called Kaliowski, who has schemes and designs and is generally a terrible guy, and they have to stop him, basically. These books are really cute, they're really quick, they're sort of YA to middle grade to YA because he is like 14 at the beginning, and yeah, they're really good. I really love Jan as a character, and him and Sido are quite cute. You do like them. They're very quick to read. I would say they're like magical realism, but more like more so because he does actually have magical powers, but they feel magical realism because it is set in like the 1700s or whenever the French Revolution happened. I think I actually preferred the Silver Blade to the Red Necklace, and I actually bumped my Red Necklace Goodreads rating from 4 to 3, just because I just didn't feel it as much the second time round. I didn't get as swept up in it. I liked this one a lot more because it was more focusing on Jan and his character development, because he's a bit older, and it's just a bit different because it's more sort of action, I think. So yeah, overall a really good series. I think that people should read it because I don't really hear a lot about it. I really like Sally Gardner's writing. Simplistic, quite easy to read, but still very good. Like, it's quite big writing. Yeah, if you like middle grade sort of fantasy, then I would read it. Then I read my 4-star read, or listen to the audiobook, because I love the audiobooks for this series, but it was The Invasion of the Tearling by Erica Johansson. Last month I read Queen of the Tearling and really liked it. I gave it a 3.5 stars because it was just the first book in the series. I really loved it, but I needed a bit more at the end. The second book picks up where the first book finished, basically, or like 2 weeks later. So yes, good. That is what I wanted. I wanted to read the rest of the story, so I did. I'm really glad that I got to it so soon, because normally it takes me forever to finish series. For example, the Tana French series I've been reading since like 2011. So yeah. But I'm reading these pretty quickly. I'm really excited for the third one. The Invasion of the Tearling I can't tell you too much about because it is a sequel, but it essentially, this series follows Kelsey, who, when she's 19, is of age to take back her throne of the Tearling. In the first book, it's about her journeying to the keep, to her castle, and then trying to fix all the problems in her kingdom that her uncle has caused during her absence. The second one, it's more about her powers, because she has powers from a magical necklace, and about her character development now that she's more solidified in her place as queen. And it also has multiple point of view chapters. The reason I'm mentioning this is because this was like my favourite part of the book. It was sort of equal parts Kelsey and equal parts a woman named Lily. And Kelsey starts having visions of this woman named Lily, and we don't know who she is or why she's having these visions, but you kind of learn more as it goes along. And at first I was a bit like, who is this and why are we reading about her? I'm sure this has a point, but And then by the end of it, I was like, she's amazing. I love Lily so much. I just wanted to do this review so I could just talk about how much I love Lily. She's so badass and so strong and so cute, and I love her. And I got really emotional about her. I was surprisingly more emotional about her than I was about Kelsey. Even though I love Kelsey, I was so emotional about Lily. Just because certain thought processes and things that she has, and you just want to protect her. And her journey was really good, and I really hope that we see more of her in the third book. I don't know if we will, because kind of got most of her story. I think you don't necessarily find out everything, because obviously there is the third book, but I think in terms of character point of view, I don't think we're going to see her again, but I really, really want to. But I loved it. This book, The Invasion of the Tearling, has bumped this series up to one of my favourite series now, because I gave it 4 stars and I just thought it was amazing. Anyway, that got slightly rambly, and I'm not very good at descriptions, but I really liked the books that I read this month. I think it was a pretty solid reading month. Invasion of the Tearling was probably my favourite, and I'm really happy that I'm getting through series, especially because I want to start doing something where if I start a series, I've got to try and finish most of it within the year, if not all of it, because I don't tend to do that, but I really want to try and do that, so I'm happy that I'm getting through a lot more. This was like a month of series, kind of. So yeah. I think it was a good reading month, and hopefully the next one will also be good. So far it is. I know we're only one day into it, but I'm including books I didn't finish in February. So yeah. Uh, anyway, that was my February wrap up. Got a bit weird. Thank you for sticking with me if you did, and I'll see you again soon.